Hey there everybody, Razor Joe here. Hope you're all doing okay. I wanted to put out a video today that sort of focuses on riding in traffic, and we may even talk a little bit about some lane splitting too, which is what I'm doing now. But we'll talk about a couple of factors and things that kind of help me as I'm riding. So the first thing I wanted to talk about concerning riding in traffic and kind of helping to stay safe is your gear. So as you can see, I have on a bright yellow vest, and that's probably the first thing. I gotta say, in my neighborhood, in the area that I ride most frequently, I'm one of the only ones I see wearing full gear, which is really sad. I see a lot of people, squids as you call them, wearing no gear. They're wearing a t-shirt and shorts a lot of times, or like that one guy in one of my videos, no shirt at all. Ended up seeing him a couple days after, and at least he was wearing a t-shirt, which it wouldn't necessarily do him any good if he, you know, were to go down. But yeah, gear is really important. So it's not just the, you know, in case you fall, but just the visibility. I'm convinced people can see. Oh, thank you, sir, for moving over. I'm convinced people can see my green vest from quite a ways away, and I can tell just in the way they drive, how far away they park from me a lot of times. They give me a wide berth a lot of times. Yeah, you know, it may not look the coolest, but I don't really care. I care about being seen and not getting hurt. So, and then of course, obviously it's going to help protect you if you fall off your bike. So those are a few reasons that you want to look at your gear, wear high-vis gear, wear fully protective gear. And then we'll also talk a little bit about lane placement, kind of how I think about it, rules that I have for myself, as well as lane splitting, which I'm obviously doing now, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And that's evolved over time too, but you know, some of it, you know, is just what I've discovered and what makes me feel the safest. It's not even necessarily the best thing, but the thing I want to talk about before I even get into all the other traffic stuff is just your speed. I'm not saying I don't speed sometimes. I do. I go over 60 sometimes, but it's to me a matter of when you do that. I don't do it when I'm splitting lanes for sure, and I don't do it when there's a bunch of other cars around. I try to really stick to doing that when I have nobody else around me and I can see for a great deal of distance in all the directions. And then as far as just riding, like I'm in this person's blind spot right here, as you can see. That used to be a really big no-no for me. My thoughts have kind of changed on that. You ideally probably don't want to ride in someone's blind spot, but a bigger deal to me than that is being right next to somebody. I don't like to be right next to somebody. Oh, look at all those rocks. Wow, I'm glad I wasn't in that lane over there. And that's what happened recently when someone almost moved into me. I was actually overtaking them, and usually when I'm gonna overtake them, I give it a little more gas, but there was somebody closer in front, so I didn't pass them as fast as I normally would. And sure enough, I had to ride right next to them for a little bit, and I saw them start to ease over. I saw them kind of look, glance in their mirror and didn't see me, or glance somewhere and didn't see me, and then started to inch this way. But luckily I anticipated they were going to do that potentially, so I was already letting off the gas. They never saw me, moved right in front of me, and I just kind of let them get in, and I went in behind them. but I'm much more cautious about being right next to somebody than I am in their blind spot, because even if I'm in their blind spot, I can place myself to where if they decide to move over, they're not going to hit me. They may not see me, but that's fine. Like this car right now, I'm somewhat in their blind spot. I don't care if they move over because they're not going to hit me. So that's number one, what I always try to watch out for. Number two, I've talked about it in a video before, try to have a cushion of space around me. And then the other thing I've been doing is when riding on streets like this that have stoplights, I'm in the middle now, but when there's lights and there's a hard curb partitioning the street like that, the chances of someone just crossing and jumping the curb are pretty slim. So I'm going to go ahead and get over now. So I like to sit over here on this far side because there's cars that'll pull out here and turn right, and there's a chance they may just jump out in front of me and pull out and not see me. But if I'm all the way over here, it's going to give me a lot more reaction time to be able to react to them. And occasionally there are some areas here where there's cars who can turn left uncontrolled, where there's not a light, but there's very few on this street. So that's why I choose to do that on this side. And I'm always very cautious when there's cars that are able to turn without a light, because they may not see me, obviously. And so I look around sometimes if I'm approaching a car that's trying to turn, and if I'm in a group with other cars, like there's a truck right kind of near me right now, chances of them not seeing the truck are pretty slim, so I'm less concerned about them pulling out. But if I'm the last line in a line of cars, then I'm concerned they're going to miss me. So I'll move over to whichever side of the street gives me the best longest amount of time to react before they do whatever they're going to do. And then a lot of times I'll just flicker and flash my brights here, and sometimes I'll even wave to try and get their attention if I'm really concerned that they're going to pull out. Sounds a little silly, but I've had a lot of people wave back at me, and I know for a fact they saw me at that point. So it helps me mentally out a lot not to be as concerned with that person at that point. I can think about other stuff and whatever else traffic is doing. So so up to this point, yeah, I don't mind being in their blind spot. I try to avoid it if possible. I try not to ride right next to somebody, and then I always want to give myself about 2 seconds of follow distance. And see, I'm going to accelerate past somebody rather than riding right next to them. So try and stay about 2 seconds away, which is not always possible. Some of these rules you have to break from time to time, nothing's ever concrete and black and white. They're always changing to whatever the best scenario is at the time. So in this case, I'm going to go back past this person because they passed me again, and I'm going to try and stay away from this person, and I'm going fast enough where I can go ahead and pass them without too much worry. So, and again, I'm still in the far left lane here. And then with the lane splitting, it's a whole other thing. When you're going up in between the lanes, I've actually done it a little faster than I normally do. I normally advocate no more than about 15. There have been times when the traffic's moving super slow, but they're not stopped, and I've gone about 25 or so. But again, it's when I feel safe to do so. And when I don't really think the cars are just going to move over in the lane. And there's even more of a chance of it when all the cars are moving, because gaps will open up. And I try to never take the lane split when there's a gap in the traffic, because I've seen too many cars just move over into the gap. So like if one of these cars here was missing, I would probably wait, or I'd rev my engine to make sure I got their attention. And then I would, when you're starting out, just start slowly and be mindful of your mirrors. I have almost hit my mirrors on cars before because I thought there was plenty of space, and if there's not, if you think there might not be space, just sit and wait. But yeah, that's basically it. I try to always give myself the best position in the lane. I try to give myself the longest duration of time that I can react to what I see is going on. and that might mean just in the same lane I'm in, I might be more to the right or the left, or on the street in general. If no one's going to be turning in front of me, I move over to that side to minimize those chances. And then I also, this time I actually was going to lane split and decided not to, so I was up a little closer to that car. But I normally like to try and leave maybe about a car length in between me and the car in front of me. And then I'm always trying to check my mirrors and always trying to look behind me, because motorcycles can get rear-ended, especially in traffic. People not paying attention, they're dialing on their phone, and I covered it in my lane splitting video that, you know, was basically addressed to the lane splitting haters. Why do cars lane split? And you know, that's all addressed in there. But I try to pay attention to see. So far I haven't had anybody that's not paying attention, and I think my yellow vest helps with that too. If they're halfway looking up and not looking straight down, from your peripheral vision you can kind of see the orange, and I think it might get their attention as well. But like I said, I'm all open for tips and pointers. I'm definitely not an expert. I've just watched a lot of videos. I've watched a lot of city motorcycle accidents on YouTube. I try to dissect it and find out what went wrong, and how I could avoid the same fate in the future. And it's made me feel a lot more comfortable riding in the city and riding amongst cars. In fact, I made a comment on someone else's YouTube video who was doing a lot of twisties and out in the country, and I said, you know what, I think I'd rather ride with a bunch of cars than ride on all those twisties, man. They still kind of concern me. So I think it's possible to do safely. I think it's definitely something that is a skill that can be practiced and learned, and as long as you're always thinking about the safety, and you're always thinking about your position and what you're going to do, what your way out is, I think it's definitely possible to ride pretty safely in the city amongst other cars. You just have to not do things stupidly, and you need to not make these horrible decisions that you don't realize are horrible until you're in the middle of something bad. If I'm ever try to do this, if I'm ever the least little bit doubtful of whether or not I should do something, I just don't do it. It's simple for me. There have been a couple of times when I reflect on a situation, whether it be lane splitting or whatever. There have been and I try to notate these moments, but there have been a couple times where I've reflected on something that was a little hairier than I wanted it to be, and I think, was I just now responsible for my own safety? Like, did I keep myself safe, or did those other drivers keep me safe because they watched out for me? And when the answer is that they kept me safe because they watched out for me, I really take a step back and reflect. And I think everybody should try to do this from time to time, because to me, that's the last thing I want. I don't want my safety depending on these folks noticing me and taking precautions against hitting me or avoiding me or anything like that. So when I have too many times or any occurrences where I'm safe only because of the other drivers, then I did something wrong. And I try to learn from those experiences and never repeat them. So anyway, just kind of a quick how I do stuff on the city riding. And like I said, if you guys have tips or how you ride safely, let me know. And if you want to figure out how to keep from getting mad when some of these drivers do the stupid things they do, go watch my Riding with Animals video. It's kind of fun, but there's a lot of tips that help me out and keep me from getting pissed off there. So definitely leave those comments, and we'll see you guys next time.